We're all bosses here.
You saw like a steep incline on quality as soon as I stopped trying to make stuff.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chaos Cast. Welcome back.
Season 2.
As you can tell, we are very prepared,
Always.
and we wanted to welcome on our first guest of the season, our very own Sam Shandley.
Good morrow to the kingdom. How's it going?
It's going
Such a pretty
fantastic.
entrance.
You have us on a lot earlier than we're prepared for because of your time zone.
Well, I'm sorry that I live across a large bed of water. I apologize for
What
that.
is it? Across the pond? Is that what
Yep.
they
Yeah.
call it?
Definitely a small pond.
Small pond.
Well, we are here to talk to Sam about um, some of the things that have been happening. We have the DeFi Kingdom Serendale track or the album that's been up on Spotify for a little while. We did want to announce that sometime next week, Crystal Vale's album will be available also on Spotify. So we wanted to shout that out, as well as just get a glimpse into what's going on with Sam and his process. And
Mostly listen to his voice.
yeah,
That's ridiculous. That is a silly thing to say. But it's an honor to be here and cool to have Chaos Cast back.
Yeah, they welcomed us back. I'm surprised every time that we've been allowed to go and represent DeFi Kingdoms in front of public. I'm always surprised, but we're still here. We're still out here.
Who did you have to sweet talk this time to get this back and running?
See, the key the key is that it's kind of like the mom and dad thing. You kind of just go to one and say like, hey, this, mom said that it was okay if I did this, and you say the same thing to mom that dad said that it was okay. And then just everyone just assumes that it's been approved and good, so they just let you go forward from there.
Like the hybrid ask forgiveness instead of permission approach.
So I wanted to get started right out the gate of how things have been. How has the response been for you, Sam, as far as your music being available on Spotify? I know that's something that people have wanted for a long time, is another way to access the music. There's plenty of feedback that we've gotten from people that it's like the perfect study music or the perfect background music. Definitely sets the scene. I've also heard from people that they use some of it for their D&D campaigns and
Epic.
scene setting for role playing.
Yeah, it's been really cool to finally get it out. Like I said, a lot of people have been asking about it for a long time. Kind of, when can I listen to this when not in the game, or when is it going to be on Spotify? And it's been a long time running, but really cool to finally get it out. And I guess cool for me personally because it's my first game soundtrack release on Spotify. I've released music on Spotify before, but that's under a separate pseudonym. It's kind of a different project, but cool to get the soundtrack up and kind of see people's responses.
Yeah,
Speaking of pseudonyms, you'll always be Pogo in my heart.
That was a long time ago. We don't talk of those dark days.
It's been a while. It's been a while since
Yeah.
since you fully doxed.
I think was that back in. Oh, I doxed before the team doxed. I
yeah,
think
you were
for
the
me it was
first
like the
one.
end of it was. I think it was the end of February, early March or something for me.
If I
Which is
remember correctly, you doxed on Chaos Cast.
was it?
I think so.
Might have been, but it's wild
It was
to
an
think.
AMA.
I think it was an AMA, but regardless, it was
It might have been.
cool to do that live for sure.
You just had to steal everybody's thunder before we did it as a team. Not
steal
that.
people's thunder, or they're kind of just following in my trendiness. We'll have to kind of agree on which one it was for that.
See, but me and Bolon went the opposite direction. People know our name and probably know more about us than anyone else on the team because we don't exactly hide. Um, but yet we still refuse to accept our real names.
Well, no one
Um,
cares about them. Like, no one would recognize our real names anyway.
Yeah, I remember the whole session of doxing, and I have to admit I don't actually remember most people's names because we still go by, or most people go by their I guess online personas. So I've forgotten the vast majority of people's names, which I guess doesn't matter actually.
Yeah, it's bad enough at this point that we've in our personal conversations just started referring to each other as our names. I even updated the contact in my phone for Bolon to say Bolon.
Right.
Refer when I'm talking to my wife about like work or hanging out. I refer to all of my friends as their screen names
Yeah.
at this point.
Sam was the first one to go big, even if it wasn't an AMA, not Chaos Casper. But
So as far as the music goes, so obviously we have Sarandale's album that's been up, and then we're putting up Crystal Vale's album. So I know we've had conversations privately, and you've shared a little bit through Discord, but I was curious about kind of your perspective on the fact that we kind of dropped on your lap. Oh, you created this beautiful soundtrack for our game. Now do something even better for this other realm. Well, that was like kind of what decisions you had to make and what your thought process was when it came to Crystal Vale.
Yeah, that was a really interesting task. I remember, I think I was probably chatting to Sinstar at the time, about a new realm, a new expansion, how there was going to be all this far more work to do and loads more tracks. And I was thinking, well, that's going to be crazy. And in kind of practicality, it was I was still expanding on the Serendale soundtrack at the same time as kind of conceptualizing what Crystal Vale sounded like. So it was weird, kind of almost in my mindset, flickering between the two worlds and kind of having to figure out what made each realm distinct. And I really enjoyed the task of thinking. So this is Serendale. It's got a clear sound. Some may describe it as high fantasy, medieval. It's got that sort of characteristic to it. I'd say sound palette. I like using the term sound palette as it's a kind of a collection of instruments or sounds which make the soundtrack what it is. So you think Christabel, what the first things you think of? Snow, cold, maybe Viking. These
Definitely
different,
a little bit of Viking in
for
the back.
sure. There's definitely that kind of sprinkle of Norse mythology in there. So that kind of led me to think, what sort of things lend to this world? And you think of snow and you think, oh, Christmas, and you kind of delve into a dangerous territory of, do I go the route of Christmas or Viking? And if it's Christmas, you throw a whole load of jingle bells in there and stuff to make it sound really wintry. But if you go for Viking, you make it sound a lot more, I guess, earthy and grungy in a way. And I think it's kind of landed on a hybrid between the two. It's definitely not Christmassy. Uh, I'd say it leans more towards Viking-esque. Not to say it's the most authentic sound that you'd hear kind of back in the day in the Viking ages, but there are definitely strong differences between the soundtracks, mostly in instruments that are used.
The thing that definitely has impressed me the most, and I'm curious about how hard this is, um, because I find this in a lot of games that there's almost like a distraction level when it comes to the background music. I find myself muting a lot of background music or turning down a lot of background music, but I don't for our game. And there's a really nice balance that's struck of immersiveness without the distraction or repetitiveness that I found. Like, doesn't matter how many hundreds of hours I've been in our game, it still never feels old. It just never feels um, distracting or anything like that. Is that something that you have to think about when you're making the music? Any of those things pop up?
Well, firstly, thanks. That's very nice of you to say, and that's definitely something that, as a composer in general, you're always having to think about. The vast majority of stuff I do for DeFi Kingdoms and other projects is loop based stuff. So on average, maybe a minute and a half loop, which is constantly going on as long as you're in the same area or context, I guess. So you're posed with the issue of how do I make this loop interesting but not annoying? So uh, it depends from project to project. So if you're working on a really ambient game, you do something which is kind of you don't even notice it in a way, but it's just there in the background. But if you're working on something more in your face, that's really where the task comes in because you want it to serve its purpose of I guess increasing intensity or um, showing deep sorrow or whatever the purpose of the track is, but you don't want it to be like, oh, I'm at the start of the loop again. Oh, I'm at this point again. Um, I guess in my approach, I always like to throw in different sections of the track. So for stuff that you might hear in DFK, they're often separated into one, two, or three sections, and it gives you that variety within the 1.5 to 2 minute track, but also doesn't make it as if it's moving from this to this to this to this. So it's a tricky task, but there's definitely an art to it, and I feel like it's something that I've figured out over the few years of being in this industry so far.
Yeah, one thing I think you've always done very well with uh at least the DFK tracks, obviously the ones I'm more familiar with. But one thing I think you've always done very well is that kind of beginning versus end to where like even, when you would post the tracks ahead of time in our chats, like if I was just clicking play, like I really couldn't pick up where that track like let off and restarted. It all kind of just melds very well together without feeling repetitive to your point, which is always really cool because like there are a lot of tracks where like in other games where it's like, oh, that ended. I could hear it. I know it
Yeah.
ended. Now it's starting again. And you always smooth that transition out so well that like it feels like one ongoing 30-minute track.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I look at is kind of loops. I mean, it's in the name. It's like a circle, right? The
Mm.
beginning connects to the end. So when I'm actually writing the music, depending on the track, sometimes it starts kind of more simple and then it builds throughout the end. But then if you were to loop it at the end of the build, you get that big jump of texture of the different instruments. Then it's suddenly back to the beginning, and it doesn't feel very cohesive. So one technique to make sure that your loop, I guess, to any composers out there, is one technique to make sure that your loop feels cohesive and seamless is to make sure that the beginning set of instruments are closer to the end set of instruments so that it feels like there's no jump or sudden jolt of intensity or thickness to the sound. Um, yeah, so looping is something so important to making sure that the music isn't in your face and it sits more in the background.
Absolutely. There's there's probably not a single thing in our game that we've gotten more compliments on, both in person at events and through DMs or Discord or Twitter, than our music. So let's just take a second to say thank you, Sam, for just actually bringing a lot of body and feeling to what we do on a regular basis. Um, I'm very curious also about some of like the influences. So something that gets brought up often is how many different games and reference points people can feel like the creators of DeFi Kingdoms, they clearly have played. Like, oh, you can tell that they've played, you know, Final Fantasy and RuneScape and all these different motifs from the gameplay side. I'm curious about, have you, when you were looking at the music, did you pull from any influences? Did you were you particularly inspired by anything, or did you use any reference points in other games or other cinematics?
Yeah, so when we cast our mind back to Serendale, or as it was back in the day, was just DeFi Kingdoms. When I first joined the team back in September last year, I was brought on to replace some pre-existing royalty-free assets. So they were kind of the framework in kind of setting the feeling. So what was existing before I was on was very medieval high fantasy type music. So that was kind of the kind of blank canvas, or I guess a not so much blank canvas that I had to base my music off. And then with each area, we approached them separately. For Serendale in particular, I remember The Witcher and Skyrim being as strong inspirations for the music. I got sent over a lot of music from those games, and definitely some Final Fantasy games as well. I haven't actually played any of those games myself. I don't have like a rich gaming history myself, sadly. But I've definitely used many of those tracks as inspiration. And for Crystal Vale, of course, there's more of a Viking-esque kind of flavor to the sound palette. And once again, The Witcher was used as inspiration. I used some tracks from a guy called Danheim, who is a great kind of Viking type composer, and various other stuff in that world as general inspiration on the way that you can incorporate sounds that I'm not really used to incorporating, and make it sound cinematic and epic. Crystal Vale has a far more cinematic and epic feeling to Serendale, whereas Serendale is more grounded and kind of street level in the type of sound. It's more rural. So I definitely needed inspiration on how to incorporate different instruments to get more of a cinematic sound.
The fact that you're not a gamer and yet you simultaneously, prior to even our further expansions, like the thought process has always kind of been Serendale's kind of like your starting zone. That's going to be where like the base level quests are and things like that. It fits so naturally into every MMO experience that I've ever had. And I just imagine future expansions just slowly ramping up in their like doomsday esque seriousness. Like we're about to go into like a dungeon, or oh my gosh, I am so excited for the idea of actually PvE quests or dungeons,
Yeah.
and seeing the you know, my heart beating because I feel like, oh crap, the music's starting and there's a save point. Like, why is there mysteriously a bunch of you know, health potions right before I open the store kind of moment from every video game I've ever played?
No, it's definitely going to be exciting to explore further gameplay in the project down the line, and figuring out ways to incorporate the music. So far, I guess here's an interesting topic to chat about. Is so far, mostly in DFK, the music has been very static. So there are different ways to implement music, and most commonly in your average game is you just have a loop or a piece of music which interacts with the gameplay very littlely, like barely interacts. It's kind of very separate. But with increased interactive gameplay coming down the line, it offers an opportunity to explore potential dynamic music, which is the idea of music interacting with a player. So the music can dynamically change depending on the context of the music, and this isn't talking about the music changing from zone to zone, but more so kind of within the zone. Say you get further on in your gameplay and the music develops, and we started to explore a bit of that with DFK Duel. And I'm not sure many people have noticed this, but here's some info for you: is when you open up Jewel, you're in the tavern and you click on the NPC, you'll hear a piece of music, and this is kind of the base track to the DFK Jewel experience. But when you start the battle, another layer gets introduced, and these are the battle drums, or there's kind of another layer of intensity that gets introduced. So that's kind of exploring this world of dynamic music that we might be able to um, kind of delve into as we go into PvP, PvE. So that's
Yeah,
really exciting to me. There's no promises, but there are definitely more opportunities to I guess increase in intensity as the battle goes on, or there are definitely lots of other options to explore.
I'm really sad that I don't think we queued up a way for them to hear the masterpiece that you dropped yesterday.
Yeah, I was we use Slack to communicate as a team. And it's really nice. We have stupid conversations and chat about stupid stuff and send
no,
stupid
very
videos.
important business.
Sorry, important. My bad. Uh we only talk about serious topics and
Always.
you know migration and all this boring stuff, but no, very important. But we often have fun, and I was working, and I have a project with all of my loops in, and they're kind of all simultaneous at the same point on the timeline, and I just pressed play out of fun, and it sounded awful. It was just all of the tracks playing at the same time, and I thought, I have to share this, so I exported it and saved it as Serendale medley, and I was like, in tribute to Serendale 1.0 closing, here's a beautiful medley of all the tracks put together, and a few people comment, no names, but a few people commented and said, oh, this is lovely, but they definitely didn't actually listen to it. They just said that it's lovely. And then the real
Just
people, they played it
live
and thought,
react.
what kind of a monstrosity is this? And it's definitely an interesting experience.
Side note, with that, if we want to test how much people are paying attention, you should do a new sample track, and like a minute into the track, you add like a subliminal message of comment this if you actually listen, because I'd be curious
Yeah.
to see how many people on our team were actually like, you know what? Sam posted new music. I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and actually listen to it fully, and then give feedback from there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Catch some of those snakes out, because I
Yeah,
know we have
yep,
some
and we'll
snakes on the
public
team.
shame them. Public
For
Yeah.
the
shame them in the next meeting. I'm totally a fan of this.
for the
Yep.
record, I did listen to it and I still support it. It spoke to every tone deaf, chaotic chord in my heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe at that point we need to question your taste in music.
Oh no, it's definitely bad. I loved it. It is a dozen great tracks that should not be played
No, it's
simultaneously.
awful. Yeah.
Oh, one other thing, and actually it just got asked in the YouTube chat anyway, but I was gonna ask, or I was gonna bring it up anyway. So I don't think we've actually said, so I'm curious, Sam, if you want to be the first one to say it, and I'm
Wow.
just going to decide that it's okay for us to say it, what the music plan for the migration is.
Good question. Now this conversation is something that hasn't been deeply addressed within the team, or myself and other people in my kind of, I guess, creative circles. But there's a potential for changes. I think for the most part, it's going to stay as it is. Um, Kind of themically, Serendale 2.0 isn't deriving greatly from what it is. There are only going to be a few changes here and there, and I'm pretty sure that isn't alpha or anything. But there may be some slight adjustments for certain zones, and with those adjustments might come some adjustments to the music, whether that be a completely new track or a new approach to the old track. I was chatting to Second Best Dad about this, I think yesterday, chatting about a particular zone which might be changing more than others. And there may be an opportunity to bring a new flavor to it, but I can't comment kind of concretely as to that today.
But no overhaul.
Yeah,
Overall, it's gonna be Sarandale because it is Sarandale.
yeah, definitely no overhaul, and we've released the album on Spotify already, so that maybe bad timing or maybe good timing, but I don't think that will have any complications because to kind of pivot to the album, it's a 10-track volume, kind of a collection of 10 tracks, and currently in game there are more than 10 tracks in Sarandale. So the approach that we're taking is they're going to be released in volumes. So when we have another 10 tracks to release, they'll be released as DeFi Kingdom Serendale Volume 2, original game soundtrack. And so for example, in this album that's currently out, there are missing tracks like Docks and Jewel and kind of the track which plays in the East Marketplace. So uh, those will definitely make an appearance in the other ones. So maybe they're the ones that might be changing, or maybe we might have to kind of change the tracks in the back end of the ones already up. But yeah, there's no concrete plans for changing the tracks at this point in time.
I
Just
think
out of
even if
curiosity,
I think even if these change, we just leave them up and the new ones go in volume 2. That way they
Yeah,
still have
quite
yeah,
access.
possibly.
I do
Yeah,
like that idea a whole lot more than changing this. So just out of curiosity, since this is what's available right now for people,
yeah.
do you have a particular favorite or a particular song that you're really proud of? Or I know that we've seen some comments even in this chat about like the Portal Zone being people's favorite, or
So are we talking about those 10 tracks right there?
yeah, of the 10
Okay.
tracks that are available right now, if you had an opportunity to just shout out one, which one would
Yeah.
it be?
Ooh, I think my favorite out of there, and it might be my favorite in all of Serendale, is Professions. And it's got a really nice orchestral swell. I'm a big sucker for kind of big strings and orchestral music, and it has a nice kind of build and release of kind of peacefulness and the feeling of being ready to get to work for the day. And yeah, I think Professions has got to be my favorite out of those 10 tracks for sure.
Well, you heard it here first. He has chosen his favorite child and abandoned the rest of them. So all the rest of the tracks should just know that they're not as important to their father as
Well, but the real question then is, what's your favorite overall?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to get up my files to see all of the different tracks. Okay, favorite overall. Well, I think Professions definitely has to be up there. Are we talking about Serendale and Crystal Vale?
Yep, all of the above.
Oh, now that's tricky because I have Serendale and Crystal Vale in different files, so I'm gonna have to switch back and forth. Um,
You can even pick a winner from each realm if you want. So Professions from Sarandale sounds like it's your winner for Sarandale.
I think so. I think I'd have to give, although I really like the track which was done for the East Marketplace,
Mm.
but I think still Professions takes the lead on Serendale. For Crystal Vale, I really enjoy the Portal one. It's got an interesting sound, and for the Portal, it's kind of it's in the Ent community, so it's got these little tree beings, these wooden bark loglings, or um, and the sound kind of matches that. So it's got a very wooden sound, lots of kind of mallet instruments, and it's got a really magical feeling to kind of match with the magical portal. So I think it's either for Christopher, it's either between the portal or the gardens. I think equally as magical, but really hard to tell, really hard to pick.
Nice. I like making you make choices between your own music.
I was also curious too. We've done quite a few um, different things as far as like contest, and there's obviously been covers, different musical genres. I think the one that I remember the most is the metal version that
Yeah,
was posted on Twitter.
yeah,
And then Bolon's favorite, of course, is
Cool.
yeah. Um,
classic.
so
Yeah,
I was curious about both the perspective of seeing your music and what you've created kind of offshot into other things, or the covers or the remixes. Just want to know like your perspective of that. Is it something that you like seeing? Is there ever a situation where you're like, it'd be really cool is if somebody did X, Y, and Z?
Mm. Yeah, it was that whole contest period. That was like maybe 11 months ago now, or 10 months ago. It was a while ago. It was such a euphoric experience. It was incredible. Um, to hear people's takes on my music. It was the first time I'd ever done that really, to that extent for sure. To have, I don't know how many it was. Like, did it reach hundreds, or was it like
oh yeah.
80?
Oh
It
no,
took a
it was
long time.
the second contest, because we
Yes,
did
there were
the
two,
two
weren't
audio
there? Yeah.
contests. The second audio contest that you and Renaissance Man judged,
Yes.
that one had over 250 entries.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that one was directly like not parodies, that's the wrong word. But like remixes. The
Yeah.
first audio contest was a little broader. They probably had like 400 entries, but it
Yeah.
wasn't, it was like create audio.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one that was directly like remix Sam's music, it had over 250 entries.
Yeah, that was incredible, and I'm so blessed to be doing what I'm doing. I'm so blessed to be able to write music for a living, and I don't take that lightly. Many people wish they could be in my position, and I'm so thankful for people that connect with my music enough to put time into, you know, putting their spin on my music. It was, I was clocking in a lot of hours for that contest, but it didn't feel like work at all. I had this massive spreadsheet up and taking notes for each track and rating them from, I don't know what it was, 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, and it was so fun. There was some great talent, and it was truly flattering to hear people's takes on my music. I'd love to do that again at some point. I think the logical step would be to do a Crystal Vale version. We've done Serendale, but to hear people's takes on the Crystal Vale music would be awesome. So maybe down the line we can explore that. But
I
yeah,
was
that,
just
that
thinking
was
the same
incredible
thing. We'll have to do a Crystal Vale version for sure,
for
because it was,
sure.
I mean, the stuff that came out of it was just incredible too.
Yeah,
Uh,
really high quality stuff
yeah.
That was one of the moments. Like, there's been plenty of moments from me and Bolon's time here where we've thought, are we really like, is this our job right now? Is to
yeah.
like judge this contest, or like we're just having fun? That was definitely up there with one of the highlights of like just getting to listen to music for a long time and
For
seeing all
sure.
these creative things. And I also want everybody to know we did a spreadsheet where like we rated stuff. Sam's vote carried way heavier than all of ours, mostly because me and Bolon can't actually agree on anything. Um, but yeah, like it was very interesting to see too, the ones that you rated higher, and then being able to go back and re-listen to them and then realize like how complex
Mm.
the music can be, the composers can be. I do want to shout out because I thought it was a very good idea. There was a request for a reggae ragweed foraging music.
Interesting. I guess it's a logical extension of ragweed, I guess. Uh, yeah, sure. We'll definitely add that in the game for sure. Thank you.
There was also a question from chat about where you trained or where you went to school, where your background was. I think people are kind of curious to learn basically just more about you.
Yeah, so I guess my musical route started when I was 6 years old, and I started instrument lessons then. And the instrument that I started was I simply started snare drum lessons. And if anyone knows what a snare drum is, it's uh, kind of one of the main drums in a drum kit. So I was literally having lessons for one drum, two sticks, one drum, nothing glamorous. But when you're six, you have to start somewhere. And I then continued that and transitioned to orchestral percussion, which is a collection of percussion instruments that you often see at the back of an orchestra. So think marimba, which is a big xylophone, mallet instruments, timpani, which are those big kettle drums, kind of the dong 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 instruments that you hear, and then also I did snare drum as well alongside that, and then went on to other instruments. Um, I then studied that at various education levels, got my degree in music and technology, and after that, just took up composition as kind of a side hustle that slowly transitioned as to becoming my full-time job.
So
Uh,
I'll have to ask without going into, too much depth, but
Yeah.
is like does music run in your family, or was it like you at 6 said I want to play an instrument? Like
I
how did
don't think any 6-year-old is like, let me go
me
practice this.
neither. That's why I had to
I think there's a certain point where like your family's like, this will be a useful skill. This will help you with college transcripts. And just
that's
some
why I had to
kids
ask.
just go and just be like, oh, this is my whole life now.
Yeah, there's definitely music in my family. All of us are musical. We can all play instruments. Kind of six of us, mum, dad, and I have three brothers, and we all can play instruments. And I was always found kind of tapping about around the house in rhythmic fashions. And when we were at church, I'd be tapping along to the music and stuff. And that sort of stuff was noticed by my parents, and they thought we might as well explore this side of things, and that kind of led on to where we are now. I'm super grateful that my parents decided to send me off to music lessons and I guess help me explore that side of myself.
It worked out well.
Hold
Yeah,
on. Wouldn't it be so nice if like we actually had talent in something that
Yeah,
could have been like cultivated?
yeah. Seems like a lot of work. I can tell you I have no rhythm, so anything music related out. Also tone deaf.
Mm.
Just out.
if you can walk, you've got a certain amount of rhythm, but I'm not sure if I've never seen you walk,
I
so
can
Yeah,
maybe.
barely
no,
walk.
the amount of time I spend tripping. Uh, yeah, no, I'm right there with Bolon. I think that's one thing that we can't judge each other for at all.
Nope.
We also both annoy each other with singing terribly.
So bad.
The only thing we share is the shamelessness to be able to sing publicly without a single care of other people's
Yep.
feelings or
Let's
opinions.
hear it. Let's hear it, boys.
Oh no, Sam,
La la la.
I
I
don't
will
know about all
mute
that
you.
now. I will sing publicly unrecorded.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
This
There's
lives
already
forever on
there's
the
already
internet.
enough content for people to meme about us. I don't need audio to be added to that.
Okay, that's
Oh
fair enough.
god.
Plus, we have crypto meme and Ghost Panda
Oh,
and
there's already 6 screenshots from this stream that we'll read
yeah, like this is dangerous territory. I
Oh dear, I'm
know.
worried what kind of screenshots they're going to take of me right now. Ah,
later. Sam wins.
I think that they're just going to record your voice and then make that into their ringtone. So, do you want to add some content, some background noise, or some certain words? You can even add like a voicemail message if you want for people.
yeah, if you like. You are being called. You are being called. You are being called.
Sorry, that just made me very happy. So, what is, I guess, the next logical thing to think about is like we've talked about a lot of your what we've actually produced right now, like, is there anything that I know there's a lot of stuff that we haven't announced, like, oh, specific times, but there's things people know we're working on, like PvP and PvE, and is there any of that you've already started your thought process, or is it like what's going on in the background? Give us some alpha without some alpha. Like what's happening back there in that mind of yours?
Sure. So I guess regarding PvP, the music hasn't totally been started, or it hasn't been started at all. But in terms of the behind the scenes thinking, we're really just waiting on Wisdom and the other guys who are more connected with those guys with the PvP side of things to understand what kind of tone we're going for. For me, in my process, tone is so important, and kind of the atmosphere that we go for is really important to nail down. So, in order for me to start work on the combat music, I need to know how intense are we going? Is this an all-out brawl where death is possible, or is it more of a play fight? Obviously, it's not going to be a play fight. It's going to be intense battles, but we need to understand the tone. Is it more along the lines of a boss fight, or is it you're interacting with someone you cross paths with? So I'm waiting on that to be figured out. Maybe it's been figured out, but we need to really nail it down before I make a start. So with that stuff that's not really started yet, I'm looking at the tracks that are yet to be in the game, and there are a few tracks that are yet to be in the game actually, but I can't speak about what they are for yet. But yeah, we're in an interesting point where we're waiting on some important stuff to be figured out first, and then I can get things rolling again.
Super excited to see new zones just half for their new music. Very curious about some of the things and how you're going to do them.
The other thing too that we have not yet talked about is the sidetrack that Sam did for us for our trailer.
That is true. There's always been, so we have the trailer music. And also, by the way, thank you for, I don't think I've ever got a chance to say, thank you for making the Chaos Cast music as well.
Yeah, of course, my pleasure.
Oh, we're definitely updating it to the Sarandale medley, though. That is the perfect chaos music.
Okay, but can we have like the original as like the outgoing music?
Oh yeah, no, we're still gonna
Like,
use
I don't want to give
original,
up.
too.
I've grown attached to it.
We might just put the medley like randomly throughout the stream and just see like who's turned their speakers up and then just blast them with that.
DT, make sure you make a note. By the way, if we hadn't had a chance to say, thank you to Dragon T also. Dragon T has always been helping us to some degree with the Chaos Cast, but you guys can already probably tell from the quality difference. We actually gave her the reins of this at this point. So she'll be popping in and out, always around to make sure that we're catching any questions or, from chat.
Yes, I'm always watching. Hi.
There's a mystery voice in the background.
Yeah, I'll pop in every now and then. Just remember, always watching, like in Monsters Inc. Really quick though, while I'm jumping in here, would you guys be down to watch the new trailer with us? Because we are about to release that live.
Yes.
Awesome,
Roll it.
awesome. All right.
Any chance that I have for us to do something before anybody else would be great.
All right, cool. I'll pop that on right now, guys. Give me just a moment.
Wait, is that copyrighted?
Probably.
Okay, and we are back. Oh, hold on.
I can unmute myself. Apparently, Risen isn't that smart. But also,
Oh
You
yeah,
know what?
Risen, can you unmute yourself?
I was
Sorry, I muted you
trying
for the
to
video. Now we're good.
I was trying not to mess with Dragon T's mojo, so I wasn't unmuting myself like a lawless fool.
well, she force muted me when I was in the middle of roasting you before, which made me kind of sad. Uh, but yeah, definitely. We're also going to be dropping some stuff in tomorrow's AMA, so make sure you tune in for that. Um, and yeah, no, I really like that trailer though. As it said at the end, uh, some of those animations were done by Q a while back for our like first trailer. And then Velocimotion, who actually won one of our contests, we ended up doing some contract work with Velocimotion for like the Perilous Journey video. But also, even though she did not credit herself in the video, DT made that video using their animations. So definitely credit also to Dragon T for putting that trailer together, even though she randomly did not credit herself.
Thanks, guys.
She's really bad at self promotion.
I know, right?
Stay humble. Stay humble, you know.
Well, I did want to give an opportunity, Sam. Or it looks like we are going to be finishing up a little bit. I'm going to put up on screen to be able to share Sam's website so that you guys can check him out directly. Is there anything that you wanted to mention or say before we start wrapping up?
I guess I'm so blessed to be on this team and thankful for everyone here, the community, you two, Dragon T, everyone really for giving me this platform to write music and um, make up this sound palette for the game. It's been so fun to work on it, and I guess yeah, so grateful and thankful to be doing what I'm doing. Yeah, this is my website that's being shown off. That's me. My
Look
face
at
isn't
the
being shown off today,
face.
but there I am. That I think that was like 5, 6 years ago. So now I've got a massive beard and wrinkles and grey hair and everything. I'm really old, as you can tell. Um, but yeah, Sam Shanley is a freelance composer for film. I haven't worked on film, TV. I haven't worked on TV. Games. I have worked on games. But aspirations, and hopefully one day.
Also,
Listen, dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have.
Risen, your URL bar is hidden, which I don't blame you. But what's the URL?
SamShanley.com.
Wow, that's amazing
Hey, gotta drop the shout out, you know.
for sure. Cheers.
Yeah, we should add that to the chat.
I already did. Too slow.
Listen, I will not put up with you. And you. Well, anyway, guys, I think that this is a good opportunity for us to say thank you for joining us for our inaugural season 2 of Chaos Cast. There will be a schedule of sorts coming at some point. We will be launching a few more in the next couple weeks. Also, look forward to you will see more of my shining face with less distraction of Bolon. We will be doing some other streams. Still working
Also,
on the
his face
details.
literally shines because he's so pale that the light just reflects off of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Um,
That
we will
was a
be doing
literal
some.
description of his face right
I
now.
will mute you. We will be doing some other streams with gameplay, maybe some tutorials, just other content and other opportunities for y'all to connect. Um, Also, shout out to our current contest. Make sure that you go and find better and more memes to waste my time and allow me to use that as productive work time. Be greatly appreciated. Anything that you need to add, Bolon?
things. Nah, definitely stay tuned. We have some more pretty exciting chaos casts with some pretty cool guests coming up.
Some partners.
With some partners. As Risen said, we'll have some more streaming going on as well. So different things for y'all to be able to jump on and participate in. And then I know I shouted out a little bit earlier, but also definitely tune in for tomorrow's AMA. We have some exciting things planned. I agree. No one is cooler than Sam. We definitely started at the best, but they'll still be good. Like,
Yeah.
they'll still be good.
Like there'll be like interviews with people that you actually like have like pressing questions, and we'll put them under the spotlight, interrogate them. Sam was absolutely the one that we were like, if we're restarting this, we definitely want to do the person that we've been looking forward to the most, and just give Sam an opportunity to talk so that we can hear his wonderful accent some more.
But there are definitely people cooler than me. Like imagine you got an alien on here. That's pretty
Nope.
cool. So shoot for the stars. Don't settle. Never settle.
Listen, the only person that I want to hear talk more than you is Sashay, just because he doesn't want to.
He hates it. Yeah, I do like making Sashay talk. We'll have to have Sashay on. But no, unless the alien is making really cool in-game music, you still win.
Okay, sure. I'll take it.
All right, guys. Well,
Nice.
did you watch it over and over again because the music's the bomb, or you were just so proud of your own work?
Well, I also just realized that I was muted on the actual stream. But just to restate, the trailer is now live in public on our YouTube, and I rewatched it a million times. Yes, okay, because I like it and I made it, but also, as Sam mentioned Danheim earlier, that's also a musician that I really, really enjoy. So when Sam made the music for our Clayton trailer, he pulled some inspiration from Danheim as well, I think, when we were working together. And so naturally, I really, really enjoyed listening to the Clayton trailer. Like when I was editing, I didn't even get tired of the music or anything. And I find that's something that happens to me a lot when I'm editing video or a lot of stuff with sound, really.
Normally it's Risen and I's voices.
Yeah.
Poor Dragon Tea. All right. So I'm going to call it. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to having more Chaos Casts in the future. And we'll see you next time.
Princess Wave.
See ya.
Oh, I'll call.
Oh, there you go.